Looks like I'm showing off all the time. Here's what you don't know. You don't see all the hard work, the years. Don't quit, okay? If I'd have quit, I wouldn't have the wife, wouldn't have the kids, wouldn't have the bird, wouldn't have the cars, wouldn't have the real estate, wouldn't have my physical and my mental health, I wouldn't have the success, nobody would know me. Nobody would know me. So you see where I'm at today, but you don't see all the days that I got up when I didn't want to get up. All the days when I went to work and made a call when I didn't want to make a call. All the days that I called somebody back that had rejected me over and over and over again. All the book publishers that wouldn't publish my books. All the TV people that said, no, man, you're too noisy. All that. All the things that are happening to you right now, the sick days, the illnesses, the family that's pulling against you, the friends that counted you out, the problems you've had in your past, whatever it is, look, you can use it as an excuse or you can use it as fuel.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because in my first business, I quit on my business partner. I was making $300 a month, and I didn't have the motivation to keep going. And the thing that got me through was studying the stories of entrepreneurs who've had massive success. And I hope that in sharing these stories with you, you find a motivation to keep going. And if I'm being honest, I still need the stories for myself today too. So today, let's learn from some of the best and pick up some simple hacks anyone can use to have more success. Enjoy. Hack number 2 is stop complaining with Gary Vaynerchuk.
My friends, you want to talk about something that has completely become something nobody talks about? Nobody talks about saving money. Like, it's just not a conversation. Like, there's a very easy way to do this. If you make $49,000 a year, live as if you're making 27. Everybody lives over what they make. No wonder you can't save money. Your apartment's too nice. Of course you can't save money. Your car is too fancy. Of course you can't save. You're buying clothes you can't afford. There are that complain to me, and this is where listen, if you're DMing me or emailing me, know that I don't fool around. When you DM me and say, I can't, the first thing I do is go to your account. Don't let me hear that you're broke as and the first story I click on, you're drinking a $7 coffee. If you're broke, you're not allowed to take Uber. Take the bus. We need to start saving money to get at. Are you in a spot? Are you in debt? You don't like it? There's gonna be no fast track to $1 million that's gonna fix that. It's gonna be taking a step back and drinking a whole lot of humility, not a French latte. I don't get it. People are always like, Gary, your story about you building your dad's business, that's not true. Like that can't be true. You had money to invest in Twitter and all that shit. I know your story. I'm like, okay, right. Because when I made $53,000 a year, I had a $2,000 a month apartment. Then I moved down to a $1,400 one because I wanted to save more money. And I bought nothing for a decade. I went out 0 times. I bought no clothes. I wore liquor t-shirts to work. I spent no money. Not super complicated. How many people here are immigrants or the children of immigrants? Raise your hands. Raise them high. How many people are the children of? Keep your hands up. And how many are the actual immigrants? Awesome. Immigrants have this figured out. Immigrants come here, they work, and they save money. I went on 1.5 vacations my entire childhood. We went to Orlando. We stayed in the Holiday Inn, and my mom ate like 1 sandwich in the week. Immigrant. Everybody cries about immigrants. They don't spend money on dumb shit. Try it. Try it. Save money and then do your thing.
Hack number 3 is model success with Ed Milet.
Think about this. Steve Jobs was in his 20s and teens when he started. Bill Gates, Mark Cuban, Kylie Jenner. You talk any entrepreneur that's out there today that you know pretty well, most of them started young. Jay-Z started young. LeBron James started young. Why is it that you can't start young? Steve Jobs did, I did, Cuban did, Bill Gates did. There's thousands of entrepreneurs. In fact, the list of billionaires in the country gets younger every single year, as do the millionaires. You want to know why? Because of these things right here. Technology, your phone, your iPad, social media allows people at any age to win, including preteen and teenagers. And so please, parents, don't hold your kids back if they want to grow. Now that we can get rid of that myth, what should I be working on? Well, the first thing is this. I think you need to start to read books on persuasion and influence. And when you're watching social media or YouTube or listen to audio, somebody like myself, study their style, study how they roll their words out, their vocabulary. Begin to model them and then modify to your style. Model and modify. Model people and then modify. It's going to be your ability to persuade people, to influence people, to cast a vision, to transfer energy at any age of your life that's going to determine how far you go. So start to study the great communicators.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Hack number 4 is eliminate your scarcity mindset with Jaspreet Singh.
When we talk about building wealth, whether we're in a recession or not a recession, the majority of people, I think, assume that it's a lack of tool set that's stopping them from getting to where they want to go, when in reality, for the majority of people, it's a lack of mindset. Most of us have access to the tool set. It's just our mindset that's lacking. You don't need a ton of money.
What's the mindset problem?
The mindset is, one, believing I don't have enough money. I don't have access to enough tools. I don't have access to enough things to go and do it. That if I want to go and build a business, I need this, and this. I need $10,000. I need $100,000 to go out and do that. I need to have this type of degree. I need to have this type of parent. I need to have access to these types of people in order to go out and build a successful business. If I want to go out and invest my money, I need $10,000 before I can invest for it to be worthwhile. Why would I want to start investing with $10? What is that going to do? When in reality, these small investments do build up. If you are 21 years old today, and you start by investing just $100 a month, which is just over $3 a day, and you do this consistently until you retire, until you're 65 years old, 66 years old, and you can get an average 10% return on your money. That doesn't mean it's a 10% return every single year. It's an average 10% return over the course of investment, which is the average stock market return. You will retire a millionaire on that $100 investment, assuming you never increase the amount of money you're investing. And we're talking about less than $4 a day.
Whoa. That's $100 a month, not a one-time $100.
$100 a month.
Yeah.
Less than $4 a day. You put $100 a month for the rest of your
40
life.
years.
And so even if you get a raise and you never put another penny into your investments, you will be able to retire a millionaire on the $4 a day that you're putting aside.
Hack number 5 is find smart people with Glenn Stearns.
I found that when I would, instead of focusing again on the fact that maybe I'm not the best reader, maybe I don't retain a lot, a lot of things well, instead of that, the fact that if I find smart people, and it's very cliche, but it's very true, and I surround myself with them, that I end up looking smarter. Right? Because, and you watch some people, and I can give you so many examples of people, but I won't, okay, that are in fear that if I surround myself with someone smarter than me, it'll make me look dumb, right? And so they surround themselves with people inferior, and then your whole company or division or whatever you're in fails, right? Versus people that have enough confidence to say, wow, you can fill in the blind spot. I don't have or my weakness, and you fill it all in, and your whole company rises, or whatever you're doing, your whole project rises, because all of you combine to make this uber, quick, fast, smart project go, right? And so that became pretty evident to me, because I didn't have a lot of the skills. That why don't I let those people do it? Why don't I bring in more people? And the more talent I brought in, the quicker we went, and the less time we wasted. And I went, all right, I think I'm onto something here, And then to admit it, hey, I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I'm the chairman of my company. I hate running the meetings. I don't like being the one that has to tell people what to do. I'm not good at that. I like the vision, right? I got an idea. Let's march up this hill. That's fun to me. But the details, let's let people that like to do that better than I do it.
And hack number 6, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is ensure a future income with Lewis Howes.
Lesson number 6, ensure a future income. So we've already talked about making passive income and the importance of setting aside money for long-term investments to have recurring revenue flowing in. So I'll hold off on repeating myself there. But in addition to that, there are a couple other ways to ensure a future income that I want to talk about. The first is investing in yourself. This is massive. The best way to ensure you have a future income is to make yourself recession-proof by continuing to learn new skills and building a strong personal brand. We talk about this in Greatness Academy, which I'll share with you more in just a moment. And there are a lot of ways to do this, and it doesn't mean you have to try to get 1 million followers on our Instagram or become famous on TikTok. It could be as simple as creating a website to showcase your designs if you're a graphic designer, and networking with other designers in your local area at meetups or conferences and events. And if you're a business coach, it could mean posting videos on YouTube showcasing your expertise. And I know a lot of you will hear that and you'll think, well, Lewis, I've done that, but I haven't gotten a lot of views or shares or comments. And I understand. I won't lie to you and say numbers don't matter at all, but they're not the most important part. Even if you don't get views or shares or likes, publishing content that's aligned with your personal brand shows you're passionate about it. And it could set you up for future success. It shows you care about the work you do, and it allows others to be able to see that as well. Nobody paid attention to the content I put out for a long time, but consistently showing up for over a decade has led to me living my dreams and being on the path to accomplishing all my goals and really setting me up for financial freedom. The days of old-fashioned resumes are over. Nowadays, everything we publish online is a resume. So that YouTube channel we started is a part of your resume, our LinkedIn profile is a resume, our website, our Instagram, TikTok, all these things, they're part of our resume. So be productive and proactive and start building your personal brand based on it. Don't rob the world of your talents. That's what would be selfish. Be proud of the work you do and showcase the gifts you were given. And it might seem like doing that won't help you much in the short term, and maybe it won't. But believe me, in the long run, it's one of the best things you can do for yourself to really ensure your future income is guaranteed and recession-proof yourself by building your personal brand. And another way to ensure a future income is launching a side hustle. And as of right now, 1 in 3 people in the United States have a side business, and another 25% are planning to start one in the next year. So you'd be in good company if you decided to launch one if you haven't already. Using your nights and weekends to build up another source of revenue for you can help provide a financial cushion if you lose your job or if the economy goes through another recession like the pandemic. And it can also provide you with more money to put into your savings, your stocks, your bonds, real estate, or wherever you're investing right now.
You have to learn to practice presence. Practice presence. Being here, fully, in the moment, alive, vibrant, or at least attentive, right? Snapping your brain out of that reactive, go with the flow mode to no, and being here. That oldest advice in all of personal development about presence and awareness, about being with the flow, about being in the moment. Every spiritual tradition has taught it as being central to human happiness and connection. This has been stolen from us because of this. I really believe I'm stunned when I hang out with people that they can't be present for 3 minutes without wanting to scroll through something. I mean, they can't be, even 4 or 5 minutes, they can't do it anymore because they have trained themselves with millions of swipes to be not present. And I believe that meaning and fulfillment, they become too fleeting when we haven't learned to be really present. And I think that's important. Learning to be really fully present and pulling that from ourselves. There's plenty of times, if you saw my schedule, you're like, how do you get present? I'm like, I've trained myself. Otherwise, I can just be pulled in the next thing. There's always a million things going on around me, and I have to learn to just zoom right in and be here with you. You have to teach yourself to do that too. Because the more days that blur by, the less sense of meaning or fulfillment you have. You can be busy, but the days don't blur by, right? I'm incredibly busy. I'm actually, this last 2 years, I can't believe how busy we got. But during that time, present. Forcing myself each day to get present so I can recognize and appreciate those little moments. So I can create the connection with other people. So that I can sense that spiritual aliveness of being here now versus hoping one day to arrive to something. And that practice of cultivating presence, of, I would say, and I know people don't like when I use this phrase, but demanding presence. I demand of myself to be present. Because I know when I'm not, I'm like, Brendan, get present. Okay. So I might bounce in place, take 10 deep breaths just to reset my brain and my body. Whew. And that 10 deep, maybe you do it right now with me. Just stand up wherever you're at, bounce in place a little bit, take 10 deep breaths. Recenter yourself to the moment and keep going. And that way you can observe life. Many people, they'll work their whole career, then they'll retire, and then they'll retire, and they'll finally be like, oh, wow, look at the color of the trees. This is amazing. Wow, life looks pretty good. And they didn't even see it for 5, 6 years. They missed all of it. Even though they were amidst all of it, they just missed it. You have to teach yourself to be with it, to be here. Meaning and fulfillment is so much, as much as we can define it and have a destiny mindset, we can feel it. Like, I do it for, like, if I have a great dinner with Denise, like things go great, we just have a nice conversation, I'll walk away and I might be like putting things away and just literally think in my mind, what a blessing. God, I made it. Thank you so much for this blessing to be here with my wife. What a great day. What an amazing moment we just had. You know what? Years later, I'm going to cherish that dinner. Simple as that. It's what we say to ourselves in the minute and after the minute that really defines how we feel over the long term. Isn't it true? The little moments, if you can celebrate them, be there for them, give thanks for them. I believe the more you give thanks for the moments in your life, the more meaning you find. The more you give thanks for the moments in your life, the more you feel fulfilled. Even if you feel years away, even if the next big thing is out there, it's okay. Right now, you're feeling it. That's what presence is. It's about feeling the day more. You hear me teach this now for 20 years. It's like you have to learn to feel life. If we don't feel it, then what's it about? And you're not just going to suddenly one day feel it, because you drank a bunch of coffee. Maybe you are, but you're gonna imagine me on caffeine. One day you're going to teach yourself to feel the day and feel the moments more. You're going to observe more. You're going to breathe more. You're going to have more intention. And as you learn to feel the day, when someone says, hey, do you feel fulfilled about your life? You're like, I do. Because you are filling life with presence. When you fill life with presence, you feel fulfilled. It takes an active participation on your point. You're not just going to show up one day and feel fulfilled. You have to fill the day with those senses of gratitude and meaning and really, I would say, connection. If you don't do that, I promise the days just blur by. And the more they blur by, the more you just stack on everybody else's reactions, needs, desires, drives, distractions, their meaning. And one day you show up and you're just You're really just a bag of everyone else's intentions and needs and drives and labels and meanings. And in that place, you're not autonomous. In that place, you don't get to experience that individual sense of meaning and fulfillment we've talked about from the very beginning, because you didn't take the time to define it consistently enough.
You must visualize the steps that lead you to the thing that you want, not the end goal. This is a major mistake that people make. They manifest improperly because all they do is focus on the end goal. If you've ever made a vision board, think about what you put on the vision board. You put up just the beach house or the $1 million in the bank, or you crossing the finish line, or you launching that business, or you having the body that you want, or you driving the Maserati, whatever it is. The end goal is what you put up on a vision board. That is not what you're going to do when you manifest. If you start focusing on crossing the finish line of the marathon, that is a one-way ticket to being unmotivated and completely discouraged. In fact, research shows that if all you do is focus on the thing that you want, and you just focus on that vision of you in your bikini body, or you with the love of your life on your arms, or you at the Oscars winning that award, or the Grammys, what happens is, because you've only focused on the end goal, you start to feel really unmotivated and discouraged because you're nowhere near it. That's where manifesting comes in, because we're not going to focus on the end goal. You got to pick something that you want in order to get started. But manifesting isn't about the end, it's about the bridge. It's about going from where you are here to where you want to go. Imagine that there is a bridge that connects where you are right here with what you dream about doing. Now, that dream could be to be a Grammy Award winning singer-songwriter. That dream might be to have a family of your own. That dream might be to have a beach house or a ski house, or to take a trip to Fiji. That dream can be whatever the hell you want it to be. But when it comes to manifesting, once you've given yourself permission to dream with the lid off and really want what you want, to feel the pull of that thing, now we got to talk about the path that connects where you are with where you want to go. And this is all about visualizing the little steps. There's a lot of research that proves why visualizing the steps is the most important thing that you could do. There was a study done at UCLA, for example, where they were researching manifestation and the power of visualization, and they broke students into two groups. And they had Group A, we're going to call these the vision board group. They had Group A close their eyes, visualize in their mind, and feel in their body themselves taking the test, and then walking up to a board where the test's scores were posted, and finding their name and seeing an A+. That's what Group A, the vision board group, were told to do, to visualize themselves achieving what they wanted. Group B, we're going to call these the hard workers. These students were coached in this research project to close their eyes and to visualize going back to their dorm room, sitting down at the desk, and studying, and staying up late, and putting in the work, studying and preparing for the tests. Now let me ask you a question. Which group do you think did better on the actual test? Was it Group A, the vision board group, who were taught to visualize and picture themselves walking up to a board and seeing the A+? Or was it Group B, the hard work group, the group that was taught to close their eyes and visualize and seeing themselves doing the work to study for the test? Well, if you answered Group A, you're wrong. If you answered Group B, you got the correct answer. The reason why Group B, the students who visualized studying for the tests, got better test scores, is because when you visualize yourself doing the work, visualizing it leads you to doing the work. And it's only through actions that you will get the result that you want. Preparing your mind and visualizing yourself doing it lowers your resistance and leads to you taking the action. That's why manifesting works. You know, the same is true in sports. There's all kinds of research in sports psychology. In fact, our Olympic athletes for the US Olympic team, they hire sports psychologists to train our top Olympic athletes, particularly after they've been injured, in visualizing themselves competing. When you coach an athlete to mentally rehearse every single detail about going through the competition, you are training the mind, body, and spirit to show up and dominate. This is particularly true for athletes after they've been injured and they're stepping back into competition. If you've been injured in competition, you're naturally going to feel anxious. You're naturally going to be nervous. Your brain and nervous system circuitry is now programmed with the intensity from that injury, the memory from the injury. So of course it's natural to bring that into your pre-competition feelings about it, right? So manifestation properly, remember what it is? Manifesting is preparing your mind, body, and spirit to do the work. It's aligning your mind, body, and spirit with what you want. It removes the obstacles that would normally stop you, which then prepares and motivates you to take the actions to succeed. So in the case of athletes who visualize themselves and see themselves doing all the steps over and over, they're removing the nerves. They're removing all the programming related to the injury. They are preparing their mind, body, and spirit to go in and frickin' dominate. And so are you.
You need someone who you can trust. Like if you're giving someone your money, or you're trying to take someone's advice or counsel, you need to trust their intentions. All right. And so it's not just whether they have integrity, it's whether they have your best interest in mind. All right. So I'm going to get to how I solve for that in a second, but that is the first character trait that you need of a counsel, of somebody, of any kind of counsel, really, whether it's investment law, et cetera. The second is efficacy, or their skill set, right? So let's think of different scenarios here. So let's say you might trust your mom implicitly, but she doesn't have the skill of knowing much about, how to structure insurance policies or trusts or, investments in tech startups, right? She might not have that skill, but you might trust her intention, right? For you specifically. On the reverse of that, you might see that there's this person who's got lots of skill, is prodigious in this, but it also means that they know exactly how to screw you if they want to, right? Which is one of the double-sided things of being really good at something, right? You know all the details, you know how to write the agreement, structure the deals in order to make sure that you get the best outcome, right? And so the idea is to find someone who has both your best interest at heart and has the ability to deliver on what you want, right? And so it's both of these things. And so you're like, well, yeah, maybe that seems obvious for me. Just even boiling it down to that was very helpful for me, because when I look through advisors, look for people I want to get counsel from, I have to look at these two things, all right? So here's how I test for the integrity piece. And here's how you can control for risk here, right? One is I always try and interview as many advisors as humanly possible, all right? And I do that because I'm going to get as much information from each of the counsel during this process that will give me perspective from which to make a judgment, right? One of the biggest problems with this, like if you think about Julie, who's trying to lose weight, right? She goes in the gym and then she talks to 10 personal trainers. One personal trainer says, it's all about high fat, low carb. Another guy says, hey, don't worry about that keto stuff. It's all about high carb, low fat. And then another guy says, no, you really just need a balanced thing. And then another guy says, it's only about calories. It's only about counting your macros. And so you get this huge perspective so that hopefully you can make a judgment call. Otherwise, when you talk to the first guy and he says, it's all about keto, then you're like, well, I guess this is it, right? I guess these guys all have opinions, when in reality, there is a truth. You just don't have the perspective from which to make a judgment yet. And so the first step in this is that I interview as many as I possibly can from reputable sources. So this is where I reach out to my network, I make posts, et cetera, to try and get as many referrals as I can. All right. So that's step one. Step two for the integrity piece is that I try and have aligned incentives. Now, a lot of times there are incentive systems that appear aligned, but are not in reality. So let me give you an example. So in the real estate market, if you're a realtor, for example, you may think, oh, this realtor has my best interest at heart, right? Because they have an incentive to sell the house. And so that is why they're going to get compensated. So they want to sell it for as much as possible. But they aren't incentivized to sell it for as much as possible. They're incentivized to sell it as fast as possible and get a deal closed, all right? And so think about this. For you, selling a house for $500,000, that's worth $500,000, is a normal, that's normal. That's the market price, right? But for you to make an extra, let's say $25,000 or $50,000 would be really material. That would be a huge extra outcome for you. You would probably push a lot harder to get the extra $25,000 or $50,000. Now, let's say that you could probably sell it in a day at $450,000 because it's below the market value of the house, right? Now, here's what's crazy is that if a selling realtor, total, it might be 7%, 2% goes to the buyer and 5% goes to the seller. If 5% is going to your realtor, 5% of $500,000, right, is 25 grand, okay? And so for them, the $50,000 decrease to drop you from 500 to 450 means that they're going to give up $2,500. So they're going to make $22,500. So let me ask you a question. Now, in the reverse, if they sell for $525, they're going to get $27,500, right? And so it's a $5,000 swing off of a $25,000 nut for them, and one of them might take them 3 months, and one of them might take them a day. So what is their incentive? Their incentive is to make as much money as possible per unit of time. And so they're incentivized to sell as fast as possible. And so this is one of those things where you have to put your thinking cap on and say, are our incentives truly aligned? And so when we're looking at this, when I say there's two aspects that I look for a counselor or somebody who's going to help me do something financially, legally, insurance-wise, whatever it is. So first is that integrity piece, and are their incentives aligned? The incentives being aligned, and you could restructure that deal and say, hey, you know what? You're going to get 0% on anything below $400,000. I'll give you 3% on anything between 400 and 450. And then from 450 and up, I'll give you 20%, right? Or 15% or whatever, right? And so now they're highly incentivized to push, and now your incentives are aligned because each increment for you is worth almost as much as it is to them. And that is how you would align incentives. All right. Now, how do you test for the second thing, which is their skill set? This one's hard, all right, especially if you don't have the perspective from which to make a judgment, which when I enter new things, when I'm trying to learn about trust, when I'm trying to learn about investment things and different vehicles, I'm learning about storage units, I'm learning about you're like, oh man, there's so much stuff and there's so much nuance that you have to have, right? And so the first thing is I like to usually read 2 to 3 books on the topic, all right? And I read 2 to 3 books just so I don't appear like an idiot. And so I can at least understand what they're saying, and they're going to respect you. It's kind of like defense. If you bring at least some level of knowledge, they don't feel like they're going to take advantage of you. So this is a first thing that I do, and this is because I don't like feeling exposed in these types of conversations. The second thing you can do is if you have someone that you can trust, you can bring them in alongside you. And the third thing that you can do, which is probably the most and highest recommended, is repeating the same action I said in the first hand, which is try and talk to as many of them as possible, and then you will gather the insights and you'll see the people who demonstrate the most expertise. And what you can do is take what one person says and say, well, what about this? And see what they reply with. Right? And as you gain more and more knowledge, and this is how so in the consulting world, this is qualitative research, right? This is where you're literally doing interviews essentially to gather information so that you can make an informed decision, right? And so when you do these interviews, and this is the lazy part, this is what most people don't do, is they won't do this work. Right? They won't take the time to interview 20 people or 10 people when in reality, these one decisions, the guy who you decide to, invest in their fund, or if you decide to buy this building or invest in a fund that buys X, Y, and Z, right? Or you have somebody who manages your portfolio, whatever it is, right? That one decision can be one of the most, if not the biggest influence on your total net worth over a long period of time. And people take more time to figure out where they want to go on vacation than where they're going to put their money. Right? And so my ask to you is that if you put these lenses on, think about both of these lenses. Lens one, do I think this person is integrous? Do I think this person has my best interest at heart? And then 2, do they have the skill to deliver on that promise? Because I don't want my mom doing my investments. I know she has my best at heart, but she has no idea what she's doing. And then I don't want somebody who absolutely knows what they're doing and does not have my best interest at heart, right? Which honestly, unfortunately, is a lot more of the cases that you'll come up with. And candidly, a lot of times they're literally incentivized against you. In the insurance industry, they're kind of incentivized to rip you off. It's pretty terrible. And there's a lot of industries like that. Mortgage brokers are incentivized to rip you off. And so you really have to look at it from both lenses. And these types of decisions can make the biggest impact on your net worth and your financial future simply based on who you decide to work with.
I think one of my first things in failure is don't take it more personally than it actually is. And I'll give an example of that. When I was applying to 40 companies that all rejected me before an interview, all I was getting was an automated response saying your application will not go any further. I can't take that personally because they didn't meet me in person. They didn't have a interaction with me. They just saw my name. They saw I'd been a monk for 3 years. that resume is useless. I mean,
Sure.
what's your transferable skills? Like
Right.
sitting in silence and stillness.
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise, no one wants to hire a monk. And so they rejected you, but that's not personal because they didn't meet me in person.
But what if they had meeting you?
Right, so that's the first step. The first
Yeah.
step is don't take all failure. I'll give you an example. Me and you, we reach out to countless guests to be on our podcast.
Who say no all the time.
Who say no all the time. But if I don't hear a no from the guest directly, that's not a no. Like someone's team can say no, someone's assistant can say no, someone's PR team can say no, but until they say no personally, it's not a no.
Okay, but when they do say no,
Then that's a no. Yeah. So then let's move
so
to
how
that.
do you deal
Yeah.
with that type of failure?
Yes. So if I deal with a failure where someone meets me in person and gets to know
Like,
me,
no, Jay, you're horrible. You suck. Like, I don't want to deal with a monk ever in my life.
Yeah.
I would never go on your show. I'm never listening to you. Never.
Yeah.
Then how do you deal with that type of
So
failure?
I've heard you say this. I've said it a couple of times, and I'm sure it's been repeated a bunch of times around how I genuinely believe failure has feedback. It's
feedback,
and
yeah.
and so for me, it's like failure has the ability to actually tell you what you need to improve. Now, not to improve to get their attention, improving to get the actions that you want to take.
Yeah, the results you want.
The results you want. And
Yeah.
don't make that result about the person who said no. Don't try use failure as a way to prove someone else wrong.
Because what happens when we prove others wrong?
When you prove others wrong, you end up trying to get validation and approval for them. And now if they're not impressed when you're right, you lose again. So you end up losing twice.
And you spend all this time and energy, years maybe, to prove someone wrong. I've been there many times.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I felt good for a moment.
Yeah.
And then I feel empty again.
Totally. And so that's the thing about failure in the second half is you have to see failure as an improvement. If I'm completely honest, everyone who rejected me in my life up until now has made me more hungry, taught me so much more about myself, and made me up my game.
Yeah.
And I think if failure doesn't make you up your game, it's the same as losing in a sport, right? When you fail and you've lost games and you've won games, you know, on the big stages.
You didn't have the skills, you didn't have the teamwork, you guys weren't hungry enough,
You weren't
whatever it is.
communicating enough.
There's something you were missing.
Yeah.
So you go review the game film, you check the stats, you see what could I have done better, and you try to improve that for the next game.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people can do that in life, but we're so afraid to like go on the next game of life. Like I got rejected once and it hurts so bad.
Yeah.
How do people learn to overcome that pain of rejection?
Yeah.
To keep going.
Yeah.
You know, in sports, luckily there's a season, which is like you might have 30 basketball games. After you lose the first two, you don't say, I'm just going to give up the rest of the season.
Yeah.
You keep playing.
Yes.
But in life, a lot of people stop playing.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. I think that's great mental training too. I think
Yeah.
sports is great mental training because you have to show up to the next game even if you lost and you don't feel bad.
Exactly.
Like you don't feel good, sorry. And one of the things, before I dive into that question, one of the things that you reminded me of was the Last Dance documentary. So there's that season that Michael Jordan, everyone is in agreement that he is one of the best players to be playing. And they keep losing.
And they didn't make the finals.
Right? They didn't make the finals. They lost. And then they realized they need to get the team. And they need to find, I think they're bringing Dennis Rodman. And then they start bringing in all these other players that strengthen. Whereas if they would have just said, we got the best player in the world, we just keep doing this, I'm not sure they would have got there, right? But the coach, Phil Jackson, and the team, they had to adapt. And so you're saying, why do we feel that pain in rejection and how do we deal with that? I think we feel that pain because we look at a failure, right? We look at it as a complete definition of us, right? We're looking at it as there's that famous statement of like, failure is an event, not a person.
Right.
And I don't know who said it, but it's one of those statements that really clicks. Like failure is an event, not a person. Whereas we start thinking we are the failure. Like we say, I am a failure. Exactly.
No matter how successful the person is that you're looking at and wishing you could be like them and thinking that they have everything all figured out, the one thing that I can promise you is that all of us struggle on the inside. That is just a reality of the human condition. Once you understand that that is a reality, that that's just a part of the human condition, then you can begin to ideally let yourself off the hook and that you're not spending a lot of time stuck there. But to give you a specific example from my life, the biggest one, the most harrowing one that I went through was in film school. So to cut a very long story short,
I went to film school, believed that I had innate talent. I went into film school with a fixed mindset. I did very well at the beginning of film school. And that all to me felt like it was proof that I was right, that I was naturally gifted, that I was a born storyteller, and that I was going to go and have an illustrious career. And I actually went through a fascinating period in film school where I was both terrified that secretly I wasn't good enough, but at the same time actually believed that I was naturally gifted and this is what I was meant to do. And every bit of feedback that I got in either direction it made me believe to the core of my being that it was true. So when I would do something poorly, I would think, see, that part of me that was convinced that I actually don't have talent, you were right. And then I would do something well, and the part of me that believed that was like, see, I knew it, you were born for this. And it all came crashing down as I worked my way up the ranks at USC Film School. Only 4 people are chosen to direct what's known as a senior thesis film, or a 480. And I was one of the 4 people picked. And I was like, see, I knew it, man. I'm born for this. Of course I got picked to do one of the senior thesis films. That just makes sense. I'm that good. And I thought, okay, cool. The thing that makes the thesis film so important is the film school pays your budget to make this film. So at a time where there's no YouTube, there's no iPhones, like filming is an expensive endeavor. Here you've got somebody that's paying for it, and that becomes your calling card to the industry. So George Lucas famously made one of these films, and obviously we know how his career ended up working out. And they showed us his 480, by the way, and it was amazing. It was amazing. And so you could see that here was this gifted filmmaker. And so I have that in my head, like, look at George Lucas's films, absolutely brilliant. He's gone on to have this brilliant career. I'm going to make an equally brilliant film, or maybe a little more brilliant. And then I'm going to go become the next Lucas or the next Spielberg. And I'm going to take that film and get my 3-picture deal. And I proceeded to run smack bang into one immutable truth. And that was that I wasn't a talented filmmaker. And I don't say that to be humble. I say that out of truth, because I didn't have the skill set to make a good film. Once the level of complexity had gone beyond a certain level, so I'd thrived in these really short, really simple films. And then once you're talking actors and dialogue and, the things that would come close to what we would recognize as a normal film, I had no idea what I was doing. And try as I might, I couldn't figure out how to make the film come out well. And it didn't come out well. And I was mortified and I was embarrassed, and I never wanted anybody to see that film. And I was really and truly devastated. So I want you to imagine your whole life. So I graduated at like 22. So from 12 to 22, all I knew was I wanted to be a filmmaker, and my whole life was moving towards that. And it looked like I had the natural gift. And of course, if you're going to be an artist, you're either born with it or you're not, right? That's all anybody said. I can't express enough. In the 80s and 90s, when I grew up, when people talked about art, you either had it or you didn't. And that was that. There was no sense of growth mindset. Carol Dweck had not written the book yet. And so it wasn't even like I knew there was a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. I just knew you're either born with it or you're not. The great news was I was born with it. Here we go. It's going to be amazing. And then boom, I can't do it. And I realized, oh my God, I wasn't born with anything. I don't know how to do this. There is a tremendous amount of process to this art, and I don't know that at all. But of course, as I'm in the middle of it, I just think my world has come crashing down. I'm not gifted. I will never be gifted. And therefore I will never be a filmmaker. I will never make anything of myself. And it was a downward spiral of epic proportions. And at the height of that, I would go home from my dead-end job and I would lay face down on the carpet because I couldn't afford furniture and literally just sit there. I can still feel that cheap nylon carpet and the way that it felt on my face as I laid there thinking, well, my life is effectively over. Certainly my life that was working towards a dream is over. And now it's just about finding a way to be the smartest person in the room. And if that means that I have to go and work a dead end job to be the smartest person in the room, then that's what I'll do. And so I used to go and interview for jobs having nothing to do with film because I felt totally broken. And my goal was to, at some point in the interview, have the interviewer say, "You're so smart. Why are you interviewing for this role?" And because I had a fixed mindset and I so needed that praise from the outside, I was putting myself in these super weird and useless positions just to get that little nugget of, "Oh my God, like you're so smart." And I had to put myself in sort of worse and worse company to get to that point. And finally, and I don't remember what it was that led me to this idea of brain plasticity, but somewhere in the depths of my despair, I realized, can we get better? Maybe we can. And so I started reading about the brain. And that started to plant seeds in my mind that maybe brain plasticity was real and maybe I could get better. And just because I wasn't good at film today, maybe I could get better at film down the road. And I ended up getting a job teaching film because remember, those that can do, those that can't teach. So I felt like, okay, well, I can teach this even if I can't do it. And then so between reading about the brain and realizing, wait a second, if I work at this thing, I actually get better. My brain actually changes and I become better at something. And given, having gone through however many years of schooling I'd been through, I started thinking about it, like, wait a second, you would come into any class. And the funny thing is, as a kid, I remember every grade just being absolutely terrified that, well, I did okay at being a fourth grader, but mom, I'm going to get devastated as a fifth grader. I don't know what I'm doing. And no matter how many times my mom would console me and say, remember, they're going to teach you how to learn the things that a fifth grader needs to know. They don't expect you to already know it. It just wouldn't sink in. And so I was sort of back in that moment of, I don't know how to do this, but maybe my mom is right. Maybe the neuroscientists are right. And maybe I can learn to become that thing I want to become. I start teaching film. And as I'm teaching it, I realize, wait, I'm helping my students become better filmmakers. So if I can help them become better filmmakers, and brain plasticity is really true, then I could get better as a filmmaker myself. And that realization changed the rest of my life. And this is why I am so obsessed with the idea of a growth mindset and brain plasticity, because the biology backs it up. And once you understand, it's what I call the only belief that matters. The only belief that matters is that if you put time and energy into getting better at something, you'll actually get better.
It dawned on me that sometimes we don't have the right frames when we're doing something, and we don't give things the right meanings. And let me explain what I mean to you by that. When we start something new, I think sometimes we forget that anything that is new to our brain may be exciting and may release dopamine, the neurochemical that is the reward neurochemical. And we feel good because we've taken on this new endeavor, whether it's a new language, whether it's retraining our brain, whether it's starting to exercise or eating better or committing to doing something that's of benefit to us, or even stopping something. Now, the very nature of how our brain works is that patterns that have been repeated over, months and years are the dominant patterns in our brain. And therefore, it's easier for our brain to activate and follow through to completion on those patterns. It's like having a highway system that's been built. It's easy for the cars to go faster on the highway system. Well, the same thing is true with our brain and the neural networks and pathways. So the pathways are the easiest for the chemicals to travel across and release the neurochemicals, that make us feel good or make us feel fearful or make us feel apprehensive or doubtful, etc., are the ones that are the easiest for our brain to activate and follow through on. Okay, part one. So that means that a new pattern, meaning stopping something or starting something, requires a little bit more of the brain's energy, and the brain wants to conserve energy. So what is our brain naturally going to do? And the answer is it's going to resist. Why? Because it wants to preserve the energy that may be required in case there's a saber-toothed tiger that comes around from, the woods to try and kill you. So we're in this energy conservation mindset without even knowing it. Our biology is geared towards doing things that are easy for us, not things that require energy, right? Glucose. So why am I sharing this with you? Well, as you're, on your journey of brain training, upgrading your knowledge and skills, taking actions, probably different actions than you were taking to achieve the results that you want more and better results it requires you accessing higher cortical functions and a higher level of awareness, especially, pay close attention, especially when you feel resistance. Now, I came out here, I still have my workout gloves on, because as I was doing some ab work, as I was doing, some bench press and flies for my chest, one of the things that dawned on me is most people do things that they're comfortable doing, but in order to get stronger from a cardiovascular perspective, you have to challenge yourself, mix up your routines. You've got to go a little bit longer, a little bit harder, on the days that you want to expand your capabilities. So in the world of, doing weights for strength training or building muscle, there are certain techniques to use and certain strategies to use, including rest, right? Muscles built in the rest phase. So let me explain what I'm talking about. I think you know where I'm going with this. When I, let's say, do a bench press or a fly, or I walk up a hill, the place where it's the hardest, where there's resistance, where I want to quit and stop and I'm breathing heavier, I just can't do another rep, that's the point of the growth. And the more you practice at that place, right, the resistance, the point of I want to quit, I can't do it anymore, that is how you expand your capacity. Resistance happens when you're at the edges of your capacity. Now, it could be mental edges, emotional edges, physical edges, financial edges. And how does it show up? It shows up as stress, right? Stress. So stress happens when your current capacity, let me repeat, stress happens when your current capacity exceeds the demand. Your current capacity exceeds the demand. So how do you increase demand? How do you increase capacity? Well, you feel the edges and go one more. You feel the tension and keep doing it. You feel the desire to quit, but then you do as much as you can. And as you do as much as you can, you get mentally stronger, physically stronger, emotionally stronger. So when I feel like, let's say, quitting, I just say just a little bit more. When I don't feel like it, I say, I know, but just do a little bit. Why? Because I want to override my natural and your natural propensity to want to quit, to want to stop. It's natural, but I don't want to be natural. I want to be supernatural. I don't want to be ordinary. I want to be extraordinary, and that's that little extra. Does that make sense? So as you're training your brain, as you have videos to watch to upgrade your knowledge and skills, as you have events to attend, to connect, to listen, to learn, to expand, if you catch yourself thinking or feeling, I don't feel like it, I'm too tired, not today, tomorrow, that's the language, okay, that the brain uses, the rationalizations, the rational lies that your brain, my brain, everybody's brain uses to keep you in your comfort zone. Well, guess what? Everything you want financially, in your relationship, health-wise, is just outside your comfort zone. And if you keep challenging and expanding your mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, financial comfort zones, you expand as a human being and you start fulfilling more of your potential than standing on the edge of it, hoping and praying and wishing that you can have greater, better results.
Make your calendar your life. This is how you start to live an intentional life, because you've designed it. You've put it in your calendar, not just the business things. When we think about a calendar, it's usually your business stuff. Okay, I got a meeting here. I gotta send my newsletter out. I have to, whatever the things are for your business life, right? If you're an entrepreneur, you probably have some of your business things put in your calendar. I'm not talking just about that. I'm talking about your life. I'm talking about how do you live an intentional life by structuring every day. What ends up happening inside of that is, oh my gosh, that's too much structure. I can't stick to it. It's too overwhelming. I need free time. I need free time in my calendar. Great, put free time in your calendar. If you know that you need 2 hours a week to have nothing in your calendar, okay, then when is that gonna happen? This is how you reduce stress and anxieties, because you've actually scheduled in your 2-hour break and nothing else comes in. Because when you don't schedule your break, here's what happens. Other things are gonna come up that's a priority. Other people's emergencies, other people's phone calls and texts and emails and social media. And then what happens? You lead back down to stress, anxiety, overwhelm. You block off your time. You build your ideal life. I was talking to an entrepreneur yesterday who I'm mentoring, and his business is blowing up. His business is blowing up. It's amazing. On his way to 7 figures. It's crazy. And he's struggling with his health. Going to doctor's appointments, struggling, has lots of inflammation. And I said, well, okay, so you need to eat better. You need to work out more. You need to have a kind of healthy lifestyle. You already know this. I'm not telling you anything new, but it's not on his calendar. So he loaded his calendar, and his calendar is all of his business stuff. It's like, okay, well, where is the physical activity in your calendar? And where are you prepping for the meals that you're going to eat? Because when you just show up on a good morning, hey, have a great day, awesome, okay, now you're really hungry, there's nothing healthy in the fridge, what do? You go for junk, or you go do takeout. Because you didn't plan, because it wasn't in your calendar. You need to schedule it. You need to schedule when you're going to go buy food. If you're going to order out, how many times a week do you want to order out? Like, schedule this stuff in. As Jocko Willink says, discipline equals freedom. You want this life. It's entirely possible. But you have to have the discipline in your calendar to actually follow through on it. When you find yourself not following the calendar, it's because of a couple reasons. The first is because you set goals that are not actually possible. There wasn't enough flexibility in your calendar, right? That you say, how many times you set a goal and you said, I'm going to work out every day for 2 hours. and then what happens? You don't, because it's unrealistic, because that's not going to happen. And what you're also doing is training yourself that you suck, that when you set goals that you don't follow through. That's a problem. Then the next time you set a goal, you're going to tell yourself, oh, I'm not going to do this one either, because I always set goals and don't follow through. You stop believing in yourself. It's not even other people believing in you. You don't believe in yourself, because you've taught yourself that when you say you're going to do something, you don't actually do it. That's a problem. So how do we start to fix that? We start to fix that by actually creating a calendar that reflects our entire life. So think about your goals. Let's break this down, right? Step 1, think about the life that you want. What's the life that you want? How much time do you want to spend sleeping? How much time do you want to spend with family? How much time do you want to spend? This will change, right? If you're a husband, wife, single, kids, anybody sick in a family, those will shift our calendar accordingly. But right now, think about your life right now. How much time do you want to spend with your family? How much time do you want to spend in your business? How much time do you want to spend? Do you need for yourself? Free time or meditation time or working out time or going out in nature time? How much time do you want to spend? Planning that, as opposed to randomly hoping that your day happens as you want it, it's not. Having no plan and no schedule is the path to stress and overwhelm. Having a decent plan, even a poor plan at the beginning, starts to create the momentum that you need. So think about how much time you want to spend in those categories, because you don't want to spend all day sleeping. You don't want to spend all day with your family. You don't want to spend all day with your kids, with your husband, wife. You don't want to spend all day working. You don't want to spend all day relaxing either. Like, the idea of sitting on the beach might be great right now because you feel stressed, overwhelmed, and may hate your life, but you don't want to spend all day every day at the beach. You would get so bored. The trick is not to escape your current life, because then you're going back to it, right? So escape for 2 weeks, a life that you hate, to then come back to it. The trick is to build a better life. And that starts with an intentional calendar. So think about how much time you want to spend on the different categories. Then step 2, I would split it up between things that you need to do daily and things you need to do either on a weekly or monthly basis. So daily is daily routine. So I have a morning routine. I'll wake up, I'll put on music, I'll set the intention for the day, I'll go for a walk outside. It's snowing in Toronto this morning. I still go for my walk outside. I'll do some kind of workout, whether it's swimming or yoga, some kind of workout, and then I'll start my day, right? What I do is start my day, like my business day, those are different days of the week, okay? So just do morning routine and then evening routine. So we bucket these, but these are mostly the same every day. Evening routine, I'll eat dinner with Nina at 6. Have blocked off an hour to be able to spend time with her. At 7, I'll stream on my gaming YouTube channel, answering questions from you. At 8, I'll spend time with my son Hayden, usually playing Minecraft or catching up or doing something together. 9, we'll sit down and watch a show with Nina. Right now we're watching Wheel of Time on Amazon. 10, I'll take the dogs out. I'll come back up, I'll clean the dishes and whatever else needs to be cleaned in the condo. 11 o'clock, I'm getting ready for bed, reading the book, and hopefully passing out, right? Evening routine, pretty structured, pretty similar every day. What it does is make sure I have time for all the stuff. I want to have time with my son. I want to have time with my wife. I want to have time to eat dinner and not be stressed out and rush into the next thing. I want to make sure that there's still time to do family admin stuff, like take the dogs out and clean the place, because sure, if I miss it one day, everything would be fine. But if every day I'm not taking the dogs out and not cleaning up the place, that's going to cause strain on my relationship with Nina and also not being happy with myself, right? So all these things are designed. Now that structure may sound overwhelming and crazy for you. Awesome, you have different goals. Maybe you need 4 hours of open time every night or 4 hours of meditation time every night. Don't take my calendar. I'm just giving you an example. You need to create your calendar for yourself. So what's your daily morning routine and daily evening routine? Put it down, create it. Then inside of the week, you might have different things on different days. I structure my entire days. So Monday is mentoring day, I just mentor my team. Tuesday is YouTube day where I'm filming content. Today's a Tuesday. I don't know when the video comes out for you, but for me, I'm filming on a Tuesday. Wednesday is my project day. It's totally open to work on projects that I want to work on. Thursday is public facing days, interviews, podcasts, shows, etc. So Tuesday, Thursdays are busy. I'm not being creative. I'm just work. Very little free time. And I'm doing tons of videos and tons of interviews. Wednesday in the middle is totally open. Like, okay, all the ideas that I've had, all the projects that I've wanted to do, here's my time in my calendar to do it. Because if I didn't have that spot, then I would feel, again, stressed out, overwhelmed. I feel like I'm just answering all these messages and just creating content and just going on people's shows, and I have no time to create my own stuff. Perfect. Wednesdays, done, right? But Wednesdays I would use to write my book. It's the whole day, totally open. Friday is my CEO day, where I work on the business instead of in the business. Saturday is fun day. So Saturday, if I'm doing anything that's work related, it has to be cleared through Nina first and better be something big. So I lose out on some opportunities because Saturday is fun day. And then Sunday is family admin day. Cleaning up the condo, grocery shopping, Costco, whatever needs to get done. That's my life, right? That fits for me. That may be the total worst thing for you. It probably is. Awesome. Figure out your life. Morning routine, evening routine, your entire life, not just what you need to do as an entrepreneur for your business, but for your life. As a husband or a wife or a son or a daughter or a parent, your life, time you need for yourself. Create it. Morning routine, evening routine, and then the rest of the week. What are you going to do? It matters. This is how you start to build consistent habits. The next step is to evaluate at the end of the week how well you did. The whole point isn't to beat yourself up of how you sucked and how you missed this and schedules don't work for you, etc. But to evaluate. It's not that you can't stick to a schedule. It's that the schedule wasn't a good enough schedule for you. So what needs to change in the schedule? For example, for dinner, for me, these are these micro tweaks. You might have to make a big tweak, but a micro tweak for me was I had my dinner from 5:30 to 6 with Nina. And it just felt too rushed. Because, okay, well, we don't usually take an hour to eat. We eat small meals, so we usually eat it pretty quickly. So, okay, half an hour is perfect, easy enough time. But it kind of felt rushed getting into it. So even though it doesn't take us a full hour to eat, I book off an hour to eat. That's an example of a micro adjustment. So think about, where do you feel stressed out in your calendar? You've done it for a week, right? You plan out your calendar for the next week. Perfect. Morning routine, evening routine, what happens during the week, during the day. Perfect. You evaluate at the end of the week. Where did you feel stressed? Where did it not work out? Where did you miss something? And if it's a one-off thing, okay, fine, something happened. But if it's happening consistently, then your calendar is broken. Then you need to spend more time here. If you get to the end of the week and you feel stressed out, overwhelmed, what are you feeling? You feel like, oh, I don't have enough time to myself. This is what the person I was mentoring yesterday said. It's like, I look at your calendar, I couldn't do that. I have no time to myself. Great, schedule in time to yourself. Because if you don't schedule in time for yourself, chances are something's going to jump on top of it and you'll never have time for yourself. I'm giving you the answer. So where's time for yourself? Oh, Saturday morning? Perfect. How much time do you need? 4 hours? Great. Put that in. Give yourself 5 hours as a buffer just in case. Now you got the time. And protect that time. So it's making those micro adjustments as you go. And so your first week, if you've never done this or feels overwhelming or stressed for you, the first week is probably going to be a disaster. That's okay. You did some of the things. That's better than not doing any of the things. So let's make some progress now. At the end of the week, look back and iterate. Change it. Make some micro tweaks. Okay, that clearly didn't work here. Okay, so next week I'm going to try doing this. And what you do is get closer and closer and closer to creating a schedule that actually fits for who you are, for your goals. And it's not going to be my schedule. It's not going to be Steve Jobs' schedule or Jordan Peterson's schedule, or anybody else. It's going to be one that you design tailored for you. And then the third, last step to it is you're going to grow and change as a person, and your schedule needs to change and adjust alongside. So there's a very big difference between having a job and being an entrepreneur. There's also a difference between being a solo entrepreneur and then having a team. There's a difference between having 5 people on your team, or 1 person to 5 people to 37 people now for me. There's a big difference in how I need to manage my time. I have a whole day dedicated to mentoring. I didn't need that when it's just me, right? Things have to change. If you're single versus in a relationship, or single versus engaged versus married, and how long you've been married, or if you have kids or not, or planning to have kids, right? Like your choices will change as you change as a human. So even if you create the perfect schedule right now for yourself, and that's reflective of today, like it's a perfect schedule for this week right now, chances are in a couple months you're gonna have to make some micro tweaks because something's changed in your life. And that's okay. That doesn't mean that your schedule sucks. It just means it needs an evolution. As you evolve, your schedule has to evolve with you. You are what you consistently do. And the way to become that person that you want, to build the life that you want, is not just having some vision board for yourself. It's by actually putting into your calendar. Let your calendar be your bucket list. That if you start actually living this life and doing these things, it leads to a happy whole life for you. Treat your personal just as important as your business. Everything gets put into the calendar. And then adjust. And now you're building the life that you want. Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video because you are awesome. If you want to know the simple routines that generate massive wealth, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
You know, like when you're driving and the cop lights go on and that your heart goes, but then when the cop drives by, you're like, oof, you feel real good. And then you start driving with 2 hands and the speed limit for about 4 minutes. And then you get back to being like ridiculous.